Power Project Army, what up? Today we have a cool episode with just the Power Project crew, Mark, Nsima, and myself. A bit of a wrap-up show, even though it wasn't the end of the weekend for us. It was just like a conversation, kind of looking back at the interviews that we did, some of the highlights that that stood out to us, and somewhere in the middle of it all, Nsima and myself ended up just interviewing Mark, and I think that comes off of the backbone of, we just hung out with Dave Tate. We just had like a cool reflection down memory lane with Mark, and we kind of just wanted to keep going. We wanted to keep asking Mark questions like, hey, how did you end up, getting to Westside Barbell? How did you meet up with Louis Simmons? And what was great is Mark just flat out said, I just gave him a call one day. They would communicate back and forth on the phone. And one day Mark was like, hey, I think I'm gonna move out there and train with you guys. And Louis Simmons was like, all right, we'll be waiting for you. So Mark ended up moving to Ohio to follow his wrestling career. And then he started lifting with, Dave Tate and everybody down at Westside. And, along with all that, we did give some of our highlights, some of the standout moments, the memorable moments to each of us from each podcast. And this is unfortunately where I butcher the quote of the weekend from Derek Carver. I got it. Look, it was my bad. Okay. I'm embarrassed by it, but I was running off of a couple hours of sleep on the last day of this podcasting trip. I actually watched the time go from 1:59 a.m. to 3 a.m. because there was the time change. So anyways, yeah, you guys will see what it is. It's pretty bad. I will say that for sure. Anyways, real quick, thank you Icon Meals for feeding us throughout this whole trip. Like I said in previous episodes, if you guys try anything brisket, you will not be upset, or you will not be disappointed, I should say. It is delicious. The grilled cheese brisket sandwich is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Head over to iconmeals.com right now at checkout. Enter promo code PowerProject for 10% off your order. And again, thank you Piedmontese Beef for sponsoring the podcast. Their meat is second to none. It is the absolute best beef in the universe. More tender, tastes better, cooks faster, has more protein, less fat. Doesn't make any sense. Just like this deal we're about to give you. 25% off your order. Head over to Piedmontese.com. That's Piedmontese.com at checkout. Enter promo code PowerProject for 25% off your order. And if your order is $99 more, you get free 2-day shipping. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you guys like what we were talking about, hit us up on all social media platforms. You can just start with @MarkBell's Power Project on Instagram. And let us know what you guys think and enjoy the show.
If you want.
I think this is fine.
Think this is fine? Okay.
I don't know. You want to make it weird? Should it be weird?
This is the only time I'm going to be in closer to the camera than you to potentially look almost the same size.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, see you later.
Yeah. You just.
That really affected you to change everything.
What do you guys think is leading to all the gas and all the pooping that's been going on this morning? Like, you guys have been...
For me, it's just...
3 bathroom trips between the two of you?
Just one for me.
Cool, grab the mic.
Oh, yeah, you got to use the microphone. Today's his first
time.
His first day.
For me, it's just the travel. No matter what, and no matter where I go, it's like, oh, man, I kind of have to go right now. And then I'll pop into the bathroom, and it's like, oh, potential false alarm. Like, nope, there's something. And then when we walk to somewhere, it's like, here we go again. And it starts bubbling. Like,
I think, I think maybe you guys had too much fun last night. I'm not trying to be negative, but I guess that's kind of negative because you had too much fun.
As far as?
I think the food. You guys were partying it up with the food hard.
Yeah, I had nice pretzel sticks.
You think Nsima has a drinking problem? Because this is what I mean.
Okay, 5 glasses of wine is not that big of a deal.
But we've been with him for how many days?
Since Thursday morning, right?
And then how many times have you seen him drink?
Okay, so 3 nights. I had 5 glasses of wine last night, 3 beers the night before, and 2 glasses of wine the night before. Okay, so not that big of a deal.
3 out of the 4 days that we've been hanging out.
Do you think you could stop?
Not a drinking problem. Like, stop it.
Do you think you could stop?
75%. Like, so so if you go, take a whole year.
Do you think that you have to drink to have a good time?
Well, yes. The alcohol makes everything better. Why not?
Okay.
Kind of does, though. Like,
yeah.
You know what? Okay.
Yeah, it really does work that way.
Since we're saying all this, all of that was sarcasm, people. Like,
No.
I got to let y'all know.
I don't know.
You better stop. You better stop. That was sarcasm.
I got some concern over here.
Yeah, I had one glass of wine last night. Did I have any wine the other night? One glass or no? No, I didn't have. Jess, I didn't have any wine. Yeah,
I think it was
one glass of wine last night.
You had twice.
I had wine twice.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so one glass.
So 50% of the time.
Now it's
It
sounding
works
like
every
he's
time.
being more defensive, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to figure out how much I had. So I had two
Whoa,
glasses of wine this
dude.
trip.
We're buddies here.
Yo, just settle down. Don't let the roids kick in.
RPR.
Because if they kick in, we're all going to be... You can't go roid raging and jujitsuing on us, you know? We're going to be jacked up.
I need to do my wake up drills to fucking deal with both of them.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just concerned. That's all there is to it. I've got some worry.
Well, it's good to have friends that are concerned for you.
Mm-hmm.
What about the lobster mac and cheese the other day? You guys went to town on that.
I still haven't touched it.
Oh, Ruth Chris. That's where
Ruth.
Ruth Chris. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that stuff and not end up spitting all over the place.
That steak was so good, yo. That fucking tomahawk was delectable.
What'd you like better? Did you like? We had Ruth Chris. What did we have the next night? What was that other place? That was just a place here in Columbus. You know, that place was really good.
What's that place called?
Like J. Gilbert's.
Yeah, Jay Gilbert's. And then where we went last night, which was Hyde Park. Tough choices, right?
Hyde Park for me by far. That tomahawk ribeye that I had last night, it shat all over the porterhouse at Ruth's Chris. And then whatever, I don't even remember what I had at the other place.
I really liked the tomahawk at Ruth's Chris. That tomahawk was good.
Yeah, I should have went with that one.
I think I went ribeye. I went like tomahawk ribeye. And then I went with a porterhouse. And then I went with another ribeye, I think. And it was wet aged. Apparently I like it wet.
Yeah, no, that wet age thing was really juicy. It came right off the bone.
And not to be weird, but that like the 36-day dry age stuff, like it tastes funky to me. Like I don't like it.
No, I don't.
It tastes
I don't
weird.
Like it. I don't like it either.
I don't remember what it tastes like.
It to me it just tastes like old meat. Like it doesn't taste good.
I don't like that wang.
I guess that just
got a little wang to it.
That just means you're not a meat connoisseur, I guess. Because I probably wouldn't like it either. But who knows?
And then, so if it has the bone in, the closer you get to the bone, the more funky it gets.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion.
Yeah, and the wet aged didn't have that same exact flavor. It was like it was less. You know, it was less than that.
So was the tomahawk wet aged? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, that was delicious. And then I got the peppercorn crust on the top. That was a game changer.
All this food was just so good.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking of this coronavirus Arnold Classic that we have going on here? Sports festival.
I'm scared of Jessica right now. Real talk.
That's just what the expo does, man. Like, we don't sleep very much, so our defenses are down. And then, like, a normal, like, dry throat turns into, like, the coronavirus. But
a dry throat turns into a deep throat in the house we were in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can truly say, and this is going to be embarrassing, I learned how to wash my hands thanks to the coronavirus. Didn't know you're supposed to sing happy birthday twice. I just sing happy birthday, half of happy birthday.
Who's a happy birthday to?
Me.
Oh, happy
do you
birthday
really do it to
me.
yourself?
Happy birthday to me.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, dear.
Me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it ends.
Let me make sure I get the right lyrics.
Then it ends. I wipe my hands off and I leave the bathroom. So I've been washing my hands wrong for years. But I guess that's why my immune system is so strong. I'm just that dirty.
That does make sense.
I like to wash my hands and put my hands back down in my pants. So the next person's hand that I shake, they end up getting my balls on their hands.
That's a great idea, though, because you're strengthening their immune system.
Yeah, see?
They get a little bit sick.
I'm trying to.
Boom.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to help them.
Yeah.
Hormesis, right?
Exactly.
I don't know what that means.
A little bit of bad.
Yeah, a little bit of poison.
Oh, okay. But as far as the expo, it was almost like eerie, kind of looking in where the because like we went into like one side where the strongman stuff was, but you can peek through to the other side where the expo would have been, and it's completely empty. But talking to people like Matt Vincent and I can't remember, there was somebody else, but they were like, "Man, this is actually kind of nice. Like I can actually watch the competitions. I can actually like walk around and not get like just you're trapped in the traffic of people and stuff." And so it was like everyone's bummed, but everyone's also kind of like almost like playing hooky. Like you're like, I should be working right now, but like we don't have a booth, so this is actually kind of fun. And it was just interesting because like this is almost like the Super Bowl for everybody, right? Like I don't remember who Corey G was saying that like my years don't start January to December, it's March to whatever. With that said, people are still enjoying everything that's happening right now.
Yeah. If this was my first Arnold, I would have loved it, just because like experience it next year. If everything's normal, which everything will be, it really is super tightly packed. Like it kind of gets old having to shovel through everybody, right? And
it gets real sweaty too, and kind of gross, and everybody with their protein bar farts, you know, it starts to get to you after a while.
Dude, I went to the bathroom yesterday when we were at the XPC meet. And I walked in the bathroom and it was clean. There was nobody in there. Yeah. I was like, this is cool. Like I wanted to take a picture, but it's kind of weird, but
it's very weird.
It is. Yeah. And I had to pee really bad, but yeah, it was nice. I was like, okay.
Yeah. But it's just, I guess it's just unfortunate for all the people that were looking forward to the Arnold being their expo, especially like maybe new businesses that were like, let's start off at the Arnold. Yeah. Think about that. I don't know how many were like that, but that is.
And then I'm just thinking about
that had to suck. Yeah. If you were a new company.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the gym bro that's like, oh, fuck. Like, man, I keep missing it. Like, I'm going to go one of these years. I'm going to go. And then finally 2020, we're saving. We bought the tickets. We're going. I can't believe we're going. And then bam, it's all gone, you know? So it's like, I wonder how many of those people still came because they're like, well, shit, I have time off of work or school. Yeah. I'm going to just go, you know? And I mean, and for those people that did that, they probably had an opportunity to like sit next to Eddie Hall watching a powerlifting meet. Whereas before they wouldn't have no chance of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It would have been, there would have been a lot more like security around and people keeping you and preventing you from going places, you know, normally you can't float around the way we were kind of floating around. But there's Eddie Hall, the all-time greatest deadlifter ever. And just a magnetic personality. But there he is sitting there watching Julius Maddox bench another all-time world record, 770 pounds. And that still hasn't really sank in. Like that just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how people are, you know, and to see the performance from Larry Wheels, we didn't have an opportunity to actually see him lift yesterday, but he did outstanding too. I think he totaled over 2,300 pounds. I think he got another all-time world record. It was like an 80-pound total. I don't understand what's happening around
2370.
Yeah, he just crushed it. You know, he did 635 or 640 bench or something like that. He squatted. What did he squat? 8 something, right?
870.
And he pulled like 865. Yeah, it was fucking wild.
And this is at 308, but like Jessica was saying, he didn't look like 308.
He's 280. He's jacked. 285.
Yeah. Like, and then that's the thing about Larry. Larry's the all-around lifter. Like everything is amazing, right? Bench, squat, deadlift, amazing. He's not just like a deadlift expert. But that's the thing about him too. It's because I feel like everything is going up like comparatively at the same. So Larry's going to be squatting 9, deadlifting 9, benching maybe close to 700 at a point.
He might be the only guy that can like beat the crap out of Mike O'Hearn.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, because he could, like Larry would be able to beat him on probably just about everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Mike is like not easy to mess with either, you know, and Larry might not have done like heavy leg presses and stuff. There might be some weird movements in there, but I mean, the guy moves really well. He's insanely strong. He's insanely explosive. That'd be a good matchup.
This isn't bagging on Mike because I love Mike, but I literally think Larry would win everything. Just because there's nothing that he's weak at. There's literally nothing that he's weak at. If he hops on a leg press, even one of those weird machines at Gold's, Larry would kill it.
He's just a mutant.
Yeah.
He's going to figure it out, you know. And
I wonder if Mike would be able to look at him and figure out something, though.
Look at the chink in the armor. Like, where is it?
Yeah. Because like when like Ryan Soper and you were up there, he's like, we're not squatting today. We're going to go over here.
Yeah.
You know, and they murdered him on the leg press. But
yeah, and then we squatted, I think, at the end. And it was like no one could no one could do anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I wonder if he'd be able to find some vulnerability in Larry. But
I'm wondering how Larry Wheels is doing it, because social media is a distraction for most people. And we've seen, friends, we've seen people that are kind of legends in the sport, strongman and powerlifting and even like CrossFit. And then we all get sidetracked by social media, and people are doing like showy type stuff. It's rare to see somebody mixing like showmanship and still kicking everybody's ass. So he had a pretty bad bicep tear. I think it might have been like a year ago or so now, but I just don't. I've never seen anything like it before. It's amazing.
It's exactly what Eddie was talking about, though. And the cool thing is that, like, Eddie was talking about how, people aren't able to pivot out of the sport. Like, he won World's Strongest Man, but then he pivoted and he's going to acting. He's killing it, right? Larry's in the sport, killing it, and doing all this other stuff. He has a great personality. He's marketing great. I think another person that's doing that really well, I've mentioned him on the podcast before, but Russell Orhe, the USAPL lifter. He's like this Nigerian dude out of Texas. Like, he's opening his own gym, but he has a great personality on YouTube too. And he's killing it athletically and still putting out stuff to the public that's just fucking crazy. So I feel like if athletes want to be at that level, like, you need to be able to show yourself to people along with putting all that stuff out.
Yeah, Larry's doing like weird tricks and like, weird feats of strength, and he's like messing around with strongman for a while. He did bodybuilding,
arm wrestling.
Yeah, arm wrestling. I mean, he's doing, and he's like traveling all over the place and stuff too. So my hat goes off to him. I don't understand how he's doing it.
Does he have a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
he does. Oh my
god,
all of his
stuff
stuff
on YouTube.
Yeah, all of his, he kills it on everything.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how hard that actually is. And it wasn't until I did Sarmageddon where because I film Mark, I've done a lot of media stuff, and it's like I know what's involved, but when you are the content, like it's hard, and I've been seeing a lot of people trying to do their own series of things, and I've gotten messages from people saying like, "Oh, dude, I started because of you," blah blah blah, and then a couple weeks later, like, "Dude, I couldn't keep up. Like, I feel like shit because I didn't finish the series, and I didn't even finish my own the Shred Again one. Like, I filmed everything. I got in my opinion, I got in great shape for myself.
Great shape.
Thank you." But I didn't finish editing like the series because it just was a lot of work. And then now I feel like, it's a little bit too late, but I still might do it. But doing all that, I look at Mark, I look at all like Christian Guzman, other content creators, and I'm just like, how the hell do you guys do it, man? Like, to do it nonstop, like the Carnivore 100 every single day, people do not understand how hard that is. Yeah. And then you're also filming and editing.
yeah, I edited it before I went to bed last night, and then I woke up. When I woke up this morning, I was like, I got to upload it to YouTube. And, I just been consistent with it every day, and it's just, I don't know, just an extra thing that I feel like I need to do. So I'm just putting it out there. And the good thing that, a good feeling is that I don't have to do it. I know that I don't have to do it. I want to share it. So that makes it easy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, okay, it's going to take a little while to go back and forth and like edit it and stuff. And it's a little bit pain in the ass because my phone is always like full of so much crap that I got to like delete shit off of there to record new stuff. That becomes kind of a pain in the ass. But other than that, it's really not that bad. And I know kind of what to shoot and how to do it. So it's really just not that time consuming. It will take me like about 6 or 8 minutes to edit a video. That's like 30, 40 minutes, maybe.
You're recording it off your phone.
Yeah, I recorded it off the phone. I just go into iMovie and I just, dump it in there. And if I do it during the day, like if I do it as I'm going and I put a couple clips in there, I can go back to it later and then it's really fast. So then it's like 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and it's like it's done. So 3 minutes spread out 3 times is, it's still 9 minutes, right? But it doesn't seem like anything. We all have 3 minutes in the day to like stop and do something a couple of times a day. So just kind of doing that and then waiting for it to upload to YouTube actually probably takes about as long as it takes me to edit it.
Yeah, and especially being out and about where you're not sure if you're going to have Wi-Fi or you know, even a connection period.
Right.
But it also helps that you do like one take everything.
Right.
Like you're good at that.
Yeah.
I stumble on my words all the time, and it's like, oh, fuck, I got to go start all over again.
Yeah, it's a lot of like self-editing. This has been an awesome trip, though. I think that this has been effective. You know, like we came out here with a plan to get a lot of podcasts done, and then we heard the news that it was canceled. I was like, shit, man, like I don't think we're gonna go, because I didn't know what it meant. You know, I didn't know what it meant to have it canceled. I didn't know if there would be nobody here, and I didn't know how they had it set up. I didn't know if there was going to be. I didn't even know that they were talking about how there's going to be mainly no spectators. But then once I thought about it more, and I think we thought about it as a team, it was like, well, you know, we should probably still go. Even before I kind of found out, Smokey was the one who told me, but even before I found out that a lot of the people were going to be there, I was like, I think we should just still go, because I knew that there would still be good people here to communicate with, and we'd end up with good content. But it just so happened that pretty much everybody that we wanted to talk to ended up being here anyway.
Yeah, when I heard the news the same time you did, and you know, Mark was just like, let's not say anything, we'll just figure it out in the morning, because it was at the end of a training session. And then as I'm leaving, I can see Mark, he's filming on his phone, and he's, you know, on Instagram saying like, oh, it's got canceled, but you guys can still come hang out with me. I'll be here this Saturday. And so I hopped on the phone with my fiance, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what this means. Okay. Like I can't say for sure, like, but I got good news and other news, like potentially good news. Like the bad news is the like amazing guests that we have for the Arnold, potentially all gone. The potentially good news is I don't have to travel, because, you know, everybody gets bummed if I have to travel because, you know, they miss me, which is awesome. I mean, awesome that I'm missed. But I'm like, hey, like, I don't know though. Like, I can't promise you that I'm going to stay home. And then Nsima called me, and he's like, well, what's going to happen? I'm like, dude, if nobody's going, I don't see why we're going to go. Like, but we don't know. And then, you know, as time passed on, I'm just like, man, I don't think we're going to go. And then the next morning on the commute to work, Smokey texts everybody. He's like, oh, we're still going. So I had to call my fiance and be like, yeah, we're still leaving. She's like, okay, well, I'll start packing. I'm like, all right. So, but yeah, I was, you know, essentially like, because I don't even know what the hell is the deal with the coronavirus, but I was nervous about like the trip about that. After day one, I'm like, fuck yeah, it's totally worth it. And then, you know, getting recognized in the airport was really cool. And then obviously day two was, I mean, everything was worth it, dude. So it was awesome.
It's amazing. It's great that we came, because we got like, there's, I don't know if this episode's being posted before all the others, but like there's so much fucking fire like there's so many fire podcasts that are coming out for all of you guys. Like,
yeah, we'll put this at the end, so everybody has already heard.
Everybody
everything.
Heard it.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys heard it, like y'all know.
Yeah.
My taint is still tickled by all of this.
A lot of great information, you know. We had Eddie Hall, J.L. Holdsworth, Corey Gregory, Dave Tate, Corey Gregory, and J.L. all happen to live here in Ohio. So, you know, that helped, you know, with some of the guests in terms of them, you know, still being here. Eddie Hall is like, you know, I've known him for a little bit now, and, you know, he's a friend of mine at this point, but like, it's still weird to me. Like I'm still such a fan, you know, such a fan of the sport, and, to have an opportunity to interview somebody that's done, like, I just think it's so cool to have opportunities to interview people that have done things better than anyone else on the planet has ever tried or attempted. And then also to have somebody that has pushed a limit. You know, he mentioned Roger Bannister, you know, being the first guy to break the 4-minute mile and stuff like that. And, I just think it's amazing to be able to talk to people, communicate with people that have, done these outrageous lifts, and they put their mind to something, and not only they put their mind to something and do it, but they put their mind to something and they did it, but it was something that no one else has ever done. Like I'm always like marveled at like Ed Cohn. Like why did Ed Cohn continue to beat the ever living shit out of everybody? Like what drove him? He was already so good. He was already breaking like his all-time world records. He's already blazed a trail that no one's ever seen before. And he just continued to win. He's like, I'm just going to win for as long as I'm in the sport. I'm just going to dominate it. Even his last meet that the guy did, he's broken. He's got a, bone on bone hip thing going on. He squats like 843 or 865, and he still ends up not only winning the contest, but he won best overall lifter against a lot of other really good I mean, he just, it's awesome to have opportunities to get to sit down and talk to some of these legends.
It shocks me that Eddie, when he was talking about when he put out that he was going to do the 1100, even his, he said his wife supported him, but she didn't necessarily believe he was going to do it. And that's your wife. And everyone around him, literally everyone in the strongman community was laughing at him because what would have been in terms of PR, like a 70-pound PR?
Yeah, something like that.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's fucking crazy. And the biggest thing he hit in training up until that point was what? 10, if we're talking pounds, 1040 something. Right? It's just crazy that he put it out there and then he ended up actually getting it.
I think
done.
he missed 1,070 or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's just so wild to me because it's no one, if I can't say how that would affect me if absolutely everyone in my life was telling me that everyone in my life that I know loved me told me I couldn't do something or told me I'd probably fail at something. Would I have the courage to do it? Yeah. I would like to think I would.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys get enough out of when you were talking about the mindset? Because I've heard him on YouTube. He kind of doesn't like talking about it.
Oh yeah.
And then he was real hesitant, but Mark kind of poked it a couple times, and he let out a little bit more information. Mm-hmm. What did you get out of that?
I don't need, I have an idea. I have a good idea of what he had to get to, and I don't even want to. I don't want to mention what I think it is because I feel like if anyone listened to that episode, you know what Eddie was talking about, and we don't need to say what it was. Mm-hmm. You know what it was, So I'm not even going to go there. But that's fucking crazy.
I mean, talk about going all in, right?
Yeah, I think it's just he was trying to strike a nerve, right? You're trying to get yourself worked up over something, and I think it's an interesting thing because you can work yourself up over, and this is just a good life lesson in general. You can work yourself up over something that didn't even happen. And what do we get worked up and anxious and worried about? I mean, anxiety, the definition of it is that you're worried about something that hasn't happened. Mm-hmm. And some people will say you're worried about something that hasn't happened yet, but I don't even like adding the yet on there because the yet implies that you're thinking that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're worried about because you're thinking that it's going to happen. But in this case, you can kind of use it for good. You can use it to your advantage in some ways. And I think you can, and Eddie Hall mentioned that a couple times. He mentioned, taking some energy from somebody gave you this negative energy. You throw it in like a washer and a dryer and you spin it around and you spin it into something different. You turn it into a positive. The way to turn a negative into a positive is you just put a straight line down the middle of it and it turns into like a cross, right? And it looks like a plus sign, right? It's how hard is that? It does take a little extra work. You pick up the pen, you got to make it draw a line, but it's just your interpretation of it. You take that negative and spin it a different way. And he's obviously done that a ton of times with his career. And he's going to do it again with acting. We're sitting here talking to him and we're talking about these deadlifts and stuff. But we're going to be like, dude, remember when we sat down and talked with Eddie Hall and people are going to know him for acting? He'll be so known for acting that a lot of people won't even know him for the deadlift anymore. Mm-hmm. Same way that people know The Rock. They know The Rock for movies, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it sucks when people don't know The Rock for wrestling because he will. I don't care what the guy does; he'll never do anything better than the way he was in wrestling was so amazing. And it's not to put down his acting or anything else that he's doing. I just think that it wouldn't matter if he was like Tom Cruise or anybody else. His wrestling was so fun to watch. But I think Eddie Hall is going to be able to do similar stuff.
Little sidetrack, but when you're talking about being, anxious about something that hasn't happened yet or whatever, when I was in, a different headspace, I would be depressed about something and I'd be down and sad. And then I would forget what I was sad about, but I would try to be sad again, just thinking about whatever it was. So when you're talking about you're anxious for whatever just hasn't happened yet, it's it's weird. But, what I really wanted to say was how scary would it be? Would it have, or what scary was it for Eddie's coach kind of poking him, trying to figure out what's going to be that one thing that gets him to like, dude, he probably was just seeing red as his coach is like saying these things.
He described it so well when he was like on the table and like the psychiatrist was poking him like, oh, what's this? How about this? How about this? And I was just like imagining that. I'm just like, if Eddie Hall's sitting in front of me and I'm that human, like I'm sitting so far away and close to the door so that if he... Bruh, that
potentially another room, like it's a Stranger Things like test or something.
But that just shows like the power of the mind in that sense, because he like that worked. You know what I mean? Like he when we talk about the episode with JL, he activated a bunch of shit that just wasn't there initially in training. Like it's crazy. But one thing that I want to get to in terms of the acting, like Eddie is someone that like, if he wants to do something, he gets at it immediately. Like he like the whole trend of all of these podcasts that I got was like the ability to pivot from something to something to something to something to something, right? He was talking about acting with us, but he's been taking acting classes since 2017, since he won the World's Strongest Man. Immediately after, or could have probably immediately after the World's Strongest Man, he's been taking acting classes. And now like he's been in a bunch of things, but that was a quick pivot, and that's so wild to me. Like that's something we need to realize. He didn't wait. He just went right into what he wanted to do and started getting it going. Yeah, and I love that he was taking these acting classes. I don't know if he was talking about it, but I haven't heard anything. Until now, yeah. Which, like John Cena does that, right? By time you know about it, he's already been working on it for a couple years. And it's like, okay, a little similarity there. Like, that's great. Yeah.
Something you were just saying, about, you were talking about depression. So anxiety is, you're worried about stuff that hasn't happened. And depression is you're worried about stuff in the past. It's pondering, it's pondering. And it's like you're dwelling on something, and you could have people tell you a million times that there's no reason to worry about that because you can't change it, right? And it doesn't necessarily make you feel any better. But what you could do is you could say, well, I can't change that, and that doesn't necessarily make me feel any better. But what I could do is I could learn from it. And I think what you're saying about pivoting, I think that that's crucial is, can we learn from the different things that we're doing, and then try not to get so repetitive with those things that we end up unhappy, because that's really all we're trying to, everyone's just trying to do the best they can. Everyone's trying to make some money, and everyone's trying to have some fun, and the making money part is just an enabler of having some financial freedom to where you can conveniently possibly have more fun. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to have more fun, but if you get yourself to, close to six figures or so, they kind of say that that's where, people aren't necessarily exponentially any more happy, going from like 100K to like $1 million or whatever it would be. But you do need to figure out a way to make some money. And I think people are just trying to do their best, and because they're trying to do their best, they're trying to be a better person. And because of that, and because they're trying to be happy, they're trying to make sure that they're not stuck in anything. Because if we get stuck in something, if Eddie Hall is no longer Eddie Hall and he's out there and he's still going, we're kind of all disappointed. And who's the most disappointed? He is, right? And so that's the pivot. If I'm still going out on a platform and I'm still throwing on my multiply suit and everything, it's not, you're not like, oh my God, like Mark Bell's going to do this lift. This is going to be sick. You're like, man, it'd be great if the guy, if he just kind of turned it in, that would be kind of cool. Cause like, I don't think he's even having fun with it anymore. And his lifts keep going down. He looks like he's in a lot of pain. And it'd be great if he could just stop being so addicted to the shit and move on. It would be really cool to see him move on and try something new and try something that's healthier,
Yeah, you see it with boxers all the time, right?
Yeah.
They just don't know when to get out. But as far as like I heard this on a podcast, and I'll change it up a little bit so it makes sense for us. But, there's 5 of us in here, and let's say we each have one 22-ounce tomahawk steak. It's like, cool. All right,
I'm
sick.
listening.
Yeah. Now let's say we have...
From Piedmontese?
Yes.
Okay.
PIEDMONTESE.com. At checkout, enter promo code Power Project
Don't
for
give
25% off. Yep, I'm doing it.
What?
I'm feeling weird.
You don't own the company, bro. You can't go and give away 25% off.
Maybe I bought 25% of the company to give my 25% back.
Wow.
Promo code Power Project for 25% off your order. Free shipping after $99. Okay, so we all have one tomahawk steak. Now, Dude, another round. We all have 2 22-ounce tomahawk steaks. Sick. Or a third one comes in. I tap out. I'm like, I'm done. Smokey has like 4 more. And then all of a sudden,
Job Smoke.
A truckload with 1,000 tomahawk steaks come in. It's like, what the fuck are we going to do with all? Like, I'm good. Like, I'm done. It's like, no, but here you go. Like, you can take a bite of one, throw it out. Take a bite of another one, throw it out. Like, so when it comes to money, it's like, okay, you're good. Like, after this, you're kind of like, what are you going to do now? And I've never had that much tomahawk steak, but is it kind of like that? You know, like at a certain point, like obviously, you don't, what was the reference? It was like, oh, if you had $10 million in the bank.
That was from JL, right?
JL, yeah. I don't think we were recording her. I think.
Yeah, he said, you know, what would happen if you woke up tomorrow morning and saw $10 million in your bank account?
I'd be giddy.
Yeah, you'd be like, whoa, like this. You're thinking like this would really change my life. But he said, if you're Bill Gates, it's a bad day, right? Yeah. Well, I'd say this. So the difference there would be, you know, just your appetite, right? So your appetite, just picture your appetite matching the amount of tomahawks that are coming, you know, and even getting like more ravenous, right? And that's what happens is people, they kind of get satisfied. Oh, they're like, oh, it's pretty cool. Like, I could maybe buy a nicer TV. That's kind of like, it starts with like appliances and shit in the house. Like, oh, I don't need my shitty washer and dryer anymore. I can buy one that actually works every once in a while. I can, oh man, maybe I could have a car that like runs like reliably and doesn't, you know, blow up on the side of the road and overheat and
doesn't burn oil,
you know,
Subaru.
But you're still stuck with yourself.
Yeah, you're still always stuck with yourself. I mean, I remember like, one of my goals, I remember just telling my dad, because like I just had such shitty cars, you know, one shitty car after another. I probably don't even know how to drive. Is probably the main problem. Probably riding the shit out of these things, and I never change. You know, I'm just not going to change the oil or anything. I'm just a fucking idiot when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'd blow up all these cars, and I just told my dad one day, I'm like, I just want windshield wipers that fucking work. Which windshield wipers always suck. It doesn't matter what car you have.
That's true.
I've had all kinds of different cars, and they always suck. Even on the Tesla. Come on, Musk. Like, you got to think of something better with these windshield wipers. Anyway, good windshield wipers, and I just I wanted rims instead of hubcaps. That's it. That's all I ever wanted out of life. This is pretty simple, right? But as you keep climbing the ladder, you kind of you want more and more. But what he said is very true, is that at the end of the day, you're left with yourself. You're left with, you know, your family. You're left with your own thoughts. And, like, how miserable is that to like have to actually be with your family or actually live with your own thoughts? Like, that's terrifying life to live, right?
Is there a point that you kind of, did you ever get like when the money really started rushing in, did you ever like be like, fuck, this is great, but when was the point that you kind of already realized, oh shit, I'm stuck with myself, I need to better myself? Or were you already trying to do that? Were you already focusing on bettering yourself versus all the other shit?
I think because I grew up with like everything and anything, that I knew that didn't matter that much. You know, like it mattered less to me. We didn't grow up rich. We kind of started out in a trailer park, and then we ended up in a trailer park. My dad worked for IBM, you know, for a long time, and I saw him be loyal to this company, wear a suit and tie every day, and then just get thrown out on his ass when he's got, you know, 3 kids at home and shit like that. So I was like, man, whatever that was that he did in the suit and tie thing, and being dedicated to that for so long, that doesn't look like it worked very good. You know, like it did work for a while. Like he made a lot of money, and we lived in nice homes, and we had a weight room in our basement that was like legit. You know, we had a lot of great things. We had everything we needed and then some. You know, someone turned 16 and boom, they had a car. You know, and we had all the clothes, and you know, we wanted new shoes. We could buy it all. It wasn't like over the top. You know, it wasn't anything crazy, but in my family is really important, and we have a big family, and we get together a lot. And I didn't really, that was just the way I grew up. That's just what I knew. I'd see my cousins all the time. My cousin Steven, I hung out with him every weekend. my entire, life, when I was young, basically, he lived like an hour away too.
Wow.
But we'd still see him all the time. I mean, it wasn't every weekend, but it was a lot, and he would come up and stay with us. We would go down there and stay with him. And, we were around family all the time. So I, got the message just from being around that, just from living in that family was where it was at, not necessarily the money. And my grandfather was more of like a community-based person. Like when I went to his funeral, there was hundreds and hundreds of people there. And like, I didn't understand. I didn't know. I was like, wait, this is like grandpa. Like, why is there so many people here? But he was like famous, like everyone knew him in the town, because he was like charismatic and he was just different. He was freaking real old school. With a cigar in his mouth, wearing like golf pants and different socks, and he was just a different kind of cat, but he knew everybody in town. He sold everybody cars because he was a mechanic, and I kind of saw that and I was like, whatever that is, that looks really cool, because he's making a difference. Like all these people really care about him. I'm like, that's really cool. And he made money. He did well. He was able to provide for 9 children. That's a lot. But he also didn't have like this crazy, excess of stuff. And it just seemed like there was just a lot of, more so than anything, the abundance of anything. If there's too much of anything in the Bell family household, it would just be like love, like just smothering the shit out of you. You're not getting by grandma without a hug and a kiss. I mean, never. Like, you're not getting past my grandma without a hug and a kiss, and every time I would walk into their house without fail, and she said this to everyone, "Hi, Mark, how's Mark?" Every time, big giant smile, as if she's like doing drugs or something. You're like, and it didn't occur to me till I was like 30. Like, what the hell is wrong with grandma? Like she's like, why is she so, how is it possible to be that happy? Yeah. She's like holding 2 babies. She's like cooking something on the stove. Like, can I get you a sandwich? Can I get you some milk? We have milk. We got Coke. We got Diet Coke. And you're like, no, I'm good. And then she just kind of stares at you and you're like, I think I pissed her off. Like, you're like, yeah, I'll have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And she's like, oh, good. I knew you were hungry. You gotta keep eating,
Yeah. So you were really well grounded, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. You had a solid, solid everything. That's great. When the money did start coming in, I think you had said like you and Andy didn't spend any money for like a year or something. Like, how the hell, like, how did that happen? Like, I don't know, man. I see like something like a $5 bill in my pocket. I'm like, sick. Let's go.
Yeah, we didn't really spend much of anything in the beginning, because we knew we had to, put money into the company, and we knew that we would eventually like need employees and things like that. And so we, Andy, she likes to keep the company fairly lean, in terms of like how much staff we need and how many other resources we're, anything that we've ever done that has been like, hey, let's try this out. That's all been from me, and I got to like fight for that just to see how it works, because I'm interested. You guys know me. I just like to find out about stuff, so I'm like, I wonder about that. Like, let's see if that works. And sometimes it costs some money. Sometimes it will cost 20 grand or 50 grand to find out that something sucked, but I'd rather know, immediately. So yeah, Andy has always been the one that has been more grounded with that, and that has to do with her upbringing. Having her dad die when she was 10, it was an awful situation to be in, but she also just kind of knew that life is fragile, and you got to kind of, you have to take care of yourself, and you have to pay attention to like details, so she's always been I'm not very detail oriented when it comes to like finances. I'm detail oriented on some stuff, but she's super detailed on that because she kind of had to be, and she, got a Division I scholarship, and she was an ass kicker as a student and an athlete. A lot of that, if you're like, okay, well, if her dad died, she probably didn't want to be a burden to her mom. They have 4 kids. She probably just wanted her mom to be like proud of her, wanted her mom to be excited and not have to deal with any drama. So Andy kind of did her best to like make sure that she became another mom in the household, basically.
Yeah, she probably saw a grenade and just jumped on it because she knew, like, okay, how many siblings was it? Or 4 total?
Yeah, 4 total. Yeah,
so she's
3.
like, maybe if I can just make it seem like 3,
yeah,
then it'll help mom.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really cool. I could definitely see Andy doing that. When you guys lived here in Ohio, what were both of you guys doing? Because I think you were just lifting. I don't know, and I don't know what she was doing. Like,
I'm doing the same thing I'm doing now, being a bum, just lifting. Yeah. We lived in Columbus, Ohio, for maybe about 14 months or so, and then we lived in Louisville, Kentucky, for a little while. That didn't last very long. It's just different, especially for her being a California girl. It was just
humid.
It was different. Not enough sunshine down there for her. Okay. That's for sure.
And that's when the commute to West Side was going on.
Yeah. So I lived in Columbus originally. Well, I'll back way up. So Andy and I met in Los Angeles in 1997 or 8 or something, 98 or 99 or I can't remember.
Post Tupac.
A long time ago. Yeah. Post Tupac. Post Biggie, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And so we met in Los Angeles. I'm originally from New York. I moved out to L.A., because of my brother Chris went to film school at USC, and I came out to visit him, and I was like, fuck New York. The weather sucks there. I'm moving out to California. And so I moved to Southern California, and I worked at this bar called Sharky's, and I met my wife there. And then Andy is from Davis, California, the Sacramento area. And so I went, I was with her long enough to end up like visiting her parents and stuff like that. And when I did, I was like, where are we? I'm like, where is this? What is this place? She's like, this is Davis. I'm like, this place is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. This is like, I don't know, seems like a pretty cool community. And it's there's not, like, in the Davis area anyway, some parts of Sacramento, there's a lot of traffic, but there's not a lot of traffic. It's pretty calm. Seems like there's low crime. There's a lot of nice restaurants and a lot of great places to walk. I like to walk. So like all that, I was like, damn, this is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we lived in that area for a while. And, while we were living there, I was like kind of, checking out some stuff with, West Side Barbell and stuff like that. I was researching a lot of the training that they did and stuff. And I called up Louis Simmons and talked to him about training often. I started calling him like probably almost once a week.
And he knew who you were. Like, did he answer the phone? Did he know who you were before?
West Side. He'd answer the phone. He'd say, West Side. His phone number was in Powerlifting USA. Yeah. It was at the end of every article. It was just sitting there. So I was like, I'm going to call this number, but I don't know, like, I'm thinking like, I'm going to call this number and I'm going to have to wait. And like, and he says West Side, and I'm like, hello? He's like, what do you want? I'm like, well, I got some questions about the bench, and it's freaking Louis Simmons, and he just starts, chatting with him.
Reminds me of the old commercials of Jack in the Box, when the guy would show up, we'd go through the drive-thru, can I speak to Jack? He's like, sure, let me put you through. It's like, hey. It's like,
yeah, he just happens to be right there.
Yeah, he tells him to get 2 tacos.
But it's so shocking, real quick, how generous. Like you said, he would just talk to you on the phone. You never met him in person, right?
Right.
It's like what Dave was talking about, like being generous with your knowledge, just giving to people. It's what you do. It's what Louis does. It's what Dave does. And just like hearing that, just like, fuck, I see why people call you the people's coach. I see why you're doing all this content. It's just like, you're just giving. And he did that shit too. It's just wild.
Yeah, no, I saw that, I saw that from him, and it became massively important to me to do a lot of the same thing, And then, anyway, so I get in a lot of conversation with him, and I talked to him one day. I talked to Andy, and I was like, hey, at the time I was already wrestling. I'm like, I want to pursue wrestling, more. She's like, well, how much more? You already wrestle like almost every day, And I was like, well, I think I should try to move to Louisville, or we should. Let me back up a little bit. I didn't say move to Louisville. I said I would love to try out and see how I do in Louisville, Kentucky. They have a wrestling camp for WWE. It's like a training ground for WWE. That's where the kind of younger people go. They learn their trade, then they get on TV and so on. And they also had another school in Cincinnati. So when I kind of looked at it, I was like, well, I don't want to move to like Louisville, Kentucky, where there's like really nothing else going on other than just like, would just wrestle, you know. But it would be kind of cool if I could like live in maybe like Columbus and maybe commute to the Cincinnati wrestling location here and there, and maybe commute to the Kentucky one because the Kentucky one was bigger here and there. And I can kind of swing that and train at Westside because I kind of knew that Westside was going to be like almost like an internship without ever really saying it, you know, without ever calling it that. And anyway, we moved out. You know, I called Louis on the phone and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about like moving out there." He's like, "Great, we're ready for you whenever you want to come out." And I just fucking went, you know, just, you know, so Andy's job that she had, she did sales for, she did radio sales, and then she moved into magazine sales, and she was just selling ad space basically.
And she was doing that in Columbus, or this was?
Well, so her job was in, well, I kind of messed up. We didn't move to Davis until after we were in Columbus, but we lived in Los Angeles together. So she was making Los Angeles money, you know, with the ad sales, right? And then she asked if she could move to Columbus, and they were like, sure.
Oh, cool.
Because Andy just always rocked it. She always did great with her job. She always did great with her work. So they didn't have any reason to think that it would decline, and they had other people that worked for them, you know, outside the office and stuff. And so, yeah, we moved to Columbus, Ohio, and I trained at Westside, and that's where I ended up like kind of meeting Dave Tate and all these different things. But yeah, Westside ended up being like it's kind of a massive like internship, a learning, you know, a huge learning experience for me, and it just ended up working out great. But yeah, Andy kind of made that leap to be like, yeah, like this is I don't know what she thought, to be honest with you, but like she must have thought that this is some sort of development process that I needed to go through, because she was supportive of it, you know.
Yeah. And how long were you guys together at that point?
Probably like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, probably fairly early on.
Louis putting his number like out there for everybody just instantly reminded me of when you put your fucking cell phone on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you had so many people like DMing and calling you, or like, texting and calling you. I think
it might have been like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. Andy was so pissed. She's like, "What are you doing?"
Nudes, just dick pics.
Yeah. You know what? I learned something from that experience, is that like stuff like that's not that bad. Now, you know, if The Rock did it, like it would just, it would just be like, I mean, it would just, people end up being like, when you're known to so many people and it spreads out like that, I think you're maybe known too little by a certain amount of people. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like people know me pretty good. And I think that like I'm not known by like millions and millions of people. I don't even know, but like I don't think I am, you know, I don't think I'm known by like millions and millions of people. So the people that do know me, I think they follow quite a bit of the stuff. I'm not a name that they just know. Like Donald Trump, for example. Like who knows really much of anything about Donald Trump? Like, I don't think anybody does, right? Even though he's been in the limelight for so long, there's probably some like fans or followers of his that have been kind of following him from his real estate days from the beginning. And they probably do know quite a bit about him, but just knowing his name and knowing what you think of him is much different than knowing like anything about him, really. So I think for me, it's, you know, for me putting my number out there, it kind of showed me who knows me and how they know me, because they didn't abuse it. People every once in a while will still text me from that. They kept the number. So he's super respectful. Like, "Hey man, I got your number from when you posted a while back. Just checking in. Hey, I wanted to let you know I lost another 20 pounds. You know, like they'll even say in the text, "I'm not expecting you to respond. I just want to let you know I'm still following along. Keep kicking ass." Or, "I saw this post that you did." It's like, yeah, everyone's like, I didn't have anyone like call and like try to fuck with me or prank me, or I didn't have, there was no weird pictures or anything. Yeah, I mean, Nsima sent me a weird picture. It was just like him twerking or something. But other than that, and I did think the thong was, I mean, the super training thong, that was nice.
No, dude, I got it custom made, red. It was good.
You got a custom made. Yeah, I mean, that was a nice touch. But
I have
other
two more
than that,
pairs if you guys want it.
Well, I need
same color.
Same color.
I need a Power Project one though.
We should get some Power Project thongs.
On the front, it says Mark Bell's Power Project.
I mean, if I can hang.
Mine just says, like, you just see the MA, and that's it.
So, okay, so then you guys moved. you're just lifting essentially, and
yeah, just lifting in Columbus.
And then, so when, how did the, because I mean, you were at the wrestling school, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so like what happened with the wrestling stuff?
So the wrestling school in Cincinnati, unfortunately, shut down, and so then I would commute from Columbus to Louisville, Kentucky. And I don't remember how far it is, but I think it's like 2.5 or 3 hours. I did that nearly every weekend. I go down there I think I'd get there like Friday night or so, and then I'd stay at a friend's house, and then I would wrestle Saturday, wrestle Sunday, and then drive back. And I didn't have like a job. I would make some money from wrestling, but it was like just whatever they could give you. So it could be $40, it could be $80, it could be $100, just from wrestling at a certain town or a certain city.
But it cost you like $150.
Yeah, to get there. Yeah, and just like food and everything else, and yeah, it was, it definitely wasn't like raking anything in by any means. But Andy had her job that gave us enough security on that end, and I was able just to kind of like go and like play wrestler and play like powerlifter and learn about it. And then like it taught me a lot, because I liked wrestling a lot. I was into it. I was a fan, but I didn't love it, and I didn't know that I didn't love it until I tried it, until it started getting harder, and until I got like a couple of, not really injuries, but started getting banged up and was like less able to do some of the moves I was able to do in the beginning. And then I didn't like it as much, because I'm like, I don't know, like, I don't understand how some of these guys hold it together and stay in such good shape the whole time. I wasn't like, I wasn't injured, but I was just banged up consistently. I was like, man, this is tough. Mm-hmm. And I like lifting more. So the wrestling, had a huge negative impact. It's not impossible. It's really, really challenging, really hard to lift weights. You can have everything on your body hurt and you can lift pretty well. Mm-hmm. And you're going to know this one from jiu-jitsu. If your neck hurts and your neck is really sore, you have like no strength. You have like no energy. And from landing on the mat repetitively and maybe just never getting all that accustomed to it, the front of the neck, you tend to clench up every time you're not supposed to really. You're supposed to kind of relax into it, but you do need to stay stiff so that your head doesn't hit the mat. You don't want your neck, snapping back. So you some trauma there quite a bit. And your neck is just super sore. I don't know if you guys ever worked out with like a stiff neck. I know from jiu-jitsu, yes, your neck must kill sometimes, or used to. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter what movement it is. It could be a squat, it could be a deadlift, it could be a bench press, it could be an overhead press. It's like someone has shut down the wiring to like your central nervous system. So, I didn't even know any of this at the time, but I didn't really realize that how much more I loved lifting. I didn't really understand the fact that wrestling wasn't my true like interest. I was interested in it. I liked it, but I liked lifting a lot more. And then once some of that stuff started to happen, once I saw the talent level too and the resistance that was like facing me in terms of how good everybody was, I was like, you know what? I did well in this. I could try harder, but I'm just not as interested as I originally thought. So me putting in the extra work to lead me into becoming more of a wrestler doesn't make any sense. And so I had to quit. I had to, people like say, never give up and never quit and never. Sometimes you do have to turn away from stuff. Sometimes I had to quit powerlifting. I had to retire from powerlifting. And I still like powerlift. I still do the exercises and stuff. Still use the movement. Still like to push the weights and stuff like that here and there. But there are times when you have to. There's a time where you got to try to maybe do something different, and pursue something else.
What's kind of I was thinking about this yesterday when we were talking to Dave, and I didn't necessarily know how to word it, but when I started learning about strength and a lot of stuff, whenever I would like maybe talk to certain coaches that are really well known, and I'd ask about like conjugate and West Side, they'd shit on it. And for the longest time, like, you learn these models of programming and stuff, right? And I would look at the conjugate stuff, and because I'm getting all of this information from these coaches, they're like, oh, bands aren't necessary, chains aren't necessary, whatever. I had this idea that it was just like, oh, these lifters are just doing a bunch of unnecessary stuff. And then when I dug into it by hearing a lot of the stuff that you guys were talking about, and not just yesterday, like years ago, I was just like, wait, there's a lot of cool stuff here. Why are people shitting on conjugates so much? It didn't make much sense. And then I was just like, this must just be that like new school versus old school thinking. Mm-hmm. Like every young cat now is like, these old guys don't know what the fuck they're doing. But when you mentioned like when you and JL and were in that closet, but JL mentioned all those top strength coaches that are football players that were in that closet with fucking Louis Simmons, listening with not Louis Simmons, Mel Siff.
Yeah.
Just like all of these top individuals, these fucking high level individuals utilize this. Like, why are people shitting on it?
Yeah, I'd like people to kind of picture, the lifting that they know right now, Just think about your lifting and what it looks like especially if you lift in a commercial gym, if you're not in a powerlifting setting. Maybe you are powerlifting, but you're not in an environment that's like necessarily
conducive to powerlifting.
Yeah, right. Like it's maybe they have like a couple things, but no one really cares that much about it, right? Well, so you have like regular squat racks, you have regular bars. You have regular collars, the squeeze ones that never really work. You never have good music on. If you train, you got to wear headphones to get different music going. And to have a good workout, you have to like get in this perfect headspace, right? Which for me now is easy to do. Like I don't need any music. I could lift. It could be pitch black or something, and I wouldn't care. But I'm older. In my 20s, I would never be able to organize stuff enough in my head to be like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm going to go lift and I'm fine. I liked having music. I liked having a little bit of excitement, but everything that's in a commercial gym is like, it's just been out there forever. You've seen it forever. It's in my opinion, it's kind of boring. You just got some leg presses, some leg extension, leg curl. And you got, your squat rack and you have your regular benches. None of the benches are great. You can't even really arch and set up on a bench very good. You start sliding off the bench when you utilize some leg drive, right? Now imagine out of nowhere, someone starts bringing in bands. Someone starts bringing in chains. Someone starts bringing in different barbells. And somebody says, hey, you know what? The way that you guys have been lifting, where you do the same thing every week, but only add a couple of pounds or drop a rep or add a set or make some small variation, that might be effective, but check this shit out. Like this is so much more fun. And you guys are doing your 3 sets of 3 and your 5x5. Guess what I get to do? I get to rage out and go fucking nuts. I get to go to a completely different level than what you're doing. I get to max out. I have the ability to max out every single day. And make no mistake about it, you're not doing West Side if you're not maxing out. If you're doing doubles and you're doing triples and you're doing sets of 5, that is not West Side.
I just picture, honestly,
there's a max effort workout.
I picture him like with like a trench coat, and he's like, "Hey kids, check this out."
Yeah. I got some candy. Yeah. I mean, seriously, it was revolutionary, and it was so exciting, and it was like it's stuff that just kind of it got its claws into me, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I'm like, well, the bands, they're heavier at the top and they're lighter at the bottom. And the chains are kind of that way too. And then I'm like, well, what about the reverse band? He does a reverse band. He does the future method, he calls it. And I'm like, wait, that's the same too. That's lighter at the bottom and heavier at the top. And then you just start thinking about all different kinds of variations and changes and stuff you can make. And then Louis like, hey, you can get a PR with your index finger on the smooth part of the bar, with your ring finger on the power, the power ring of the bar. You can get all these different. Everything's a freaking PR. You have a fat bar with chains PR. You have a safety squat bar PR. And just picture now if like I was already kind of stuck on stuff. At that time I think I benched like 455 or something like that, and I was already like kind of stuck. And I didn't have the understanding of how to make some changes, and once I started learning some of the West Side stuff, that's when the numbers started to move again. And I was getting injured too, because like periodization can work really good, but you need to know a model that can work well for you for a longer period of time. And I didn't have that knowledge at the time. All I knew about was just straight up like linear periodization, where you just simply, you start out with like a 5x5 and it just ends up at the end of like 8 or 12 weeks, you end up with like a 1x1 that kind of preps you for the meet. I didn't know about like building a base and prepping, for whatever you're about to do next is like the most important thing about any programming. But I just didn't know any of that stuff. And West Side to me was kind of like, it's a little bit like the carnivore diet. It was, it really simplified stuff for me. It was like one day a week, you're going to lift super heavy. Another day a week, you're going to try to lift really fast. And the two things complement each other. And then, oh, by the way, don't forget, it's important to be big too. It's important to have muscle mass. So you just did those three things. If you're to break down West Side Barbell, people get really confused by it because they see you doing so many different things. They see you doing so many different they're like, oh, it's the variations. And it's not about the variations. It's about the actual method. And the actual method, even though it does call for some variation, the actual method itself is you move fast, you move heavy weights, and you work on hypertrophy. That's it. There's only 3 ways to really stimulate the muscles and the central nervous system. I mean, there could be some other factors in there, but basically in the gym you have kind of these 3 different ways, and one way is through explosive activity, plyometrics, speed work, right? Another way is through lifting heavy, and another way is through a hypertrophy work. That's kind of like there's really. And then how many different things are inside of all those things? It gets to be, it gets to be really crazy. But your intramuscular coordination, the firing of your central nervous system, we could call Larry Wheels a freak all day long, but he just has access to power that the rest of us don't have access to. But you could figure out how to gain access to it. You might not be able to, he might, there's going to be exceptions to every rule, the way that his muscle bellies are. And you can go, you could go down this rabbit hole forever. Who knows? Maybe he did something from the ages 6 to 12 that we don't know about that made him strong. I don't know. Right. But we all have access to a power that we are completely unaware of. That's a fact. I can be way stronger than I am. You can be way stronger than you are. Smokey's probably the only guy that's topped out. No one could possibly be any stronger than that. But, we all have this power inside of us. It's a matter of figuring out a combination of a way to exercise to access it all.
Yeah. Larry Wheels has muscle bellies and Smokey has pork bellies.
I like that.
So at Westside, did somebody take you under their wing? Like, how did that go? Because you've explained it several times where like there's the like door opening and newbies just hang out in the very front, and then eventually they kind of walk in. But like, how was it when you got there?
Yeah, there was really no wing. It's not that kind of place. You're not going to get. Right. You have to earn it. You gotta. No one's going to talk to you unless they see you like working. It's a little bit like our work, like the culture that we created at our work. Somebody new comes in and works for us, or these companies that we've been working with. Like, okay, let's see. Like the last guy said the same thing, and the guys before you guys said the same. They said the same thing as that guy, and they said the same thing as this guy.
And the guy before that was in the hospital.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Andy put one guy in the hospital. It's what? Wait, what happened?
It may or may not have happened. Okay,
it's a true story,
but we're
not allowed to talk about it.
That's why I didn't want to say it may or may not have happened. But yeah, some guy got a phone call from Andy. Next thing you know, where are you? I'm in the hospital. I basically had a heart attack.
Wow. Yeah, stressed him out.
He couldn't hang.
And that's like, that's what you're looking for. Like at Westside, they're looking at like, yeah, who can hang? We saw a jacked person come in here last week. We saw a 350-pound guy come in here last week. We saw a girl who shredded the bone come in here last week. And like, where are those people now? They're not still. Another person said they were going to deadlift 900 pounds. Another person said they were going to deadlift 1,000. Another person said they were going to bench 700. No one cares about any of that. No one cares about your background. No one cares about, none of that matters. Your ethnicity, your race, your religion. No one even knows they barely know any of it about you. As Dave was pointing out, like, you don't even know the dude's name. Like, oh, there's Smelly and there's Gritter and there's Chester, and there's like, it got so weird that people had names that like they weren't even it wasn't even a nickname, but it's just like you just call someone like Bob or Steve or Jason or whatever, just because like you just didn't know their name. You just make it up, and then it might stick on somebody.
Yeah.
You guys remember Harry Potter? Okay, you know, like the picking hat.
I love Harry Potter.
What's the name of the picking hat thing?
Oh yeah, what is that?
What is
called?
it? I forgot. But you know that
I've never seen Harry Potter.
Oh, I'm so okay. Then it's going over your head. But that guy that Louis mentioned, Chuck, right?
Chuck Vogelpool.
Chuck. Yeah. I just pictured him like, you know, being in the corner and just like, you are smelly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You are whatever.
He's
you know,
like, ordaining people.
ordaining people with their fucking names. That shit was so funny to me. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. It kind of is that way. But there was one person that took me under their wing, and I'm lucky for that. And that was Louis. You know, I don't know, and I don't know why. I'm not sure the reason. But like I had different rules than everybody in there. I don't know why it was that way. I think maybe like, something about being like an outsider, it sets you up with some different rules. Mm-hmm. Like we were kind of outsiders with Dave Castro. Like we're not in that inner circle of CrossFit. Mm-hmm. So we can ask him a naive question, and it's not like he's going to push a button and going to make us fall through the floor and disappear and be eaten alive by a bunch of fucking sharks or something, right?
They have that, right?
But yeah, CrossFit has that, right? And they have that ability to like make people disappear kind of thing, right? And so I think maybe I had a similar relationship with Louis where, you know, he knew I was doing pro wrestling stuff and he knew I was trying to pursue something else. And he didn't really push meets on me. The rest of the gym did. They're like, you're doing a meet. And I was like, yeah, I'll do one. I don't, you know, whatever. But they were like, no, we signed you up. Like, you're doing a fucking meet. And I was like, all right, well, just chill. Yeah, I'm down. I'm good. I'm not afraid to do a powerlifting meet, you know, but it was, they were like super, super aggressive about it because they wanted everybody there to have the same goal. And that's what makes the place so different, is that you have a group of like-minded people that have the same goal. And it's very clear. There's not a different goal. And I think that when you go to a commercial gym, that can actually be kind of positive in some ways, because you can get energy from other people, but I think it feels more negative to you than it does positive. Mm-hmm. You're like, man, look at a bunch of these people are just fat. They're just trying to lose weight. And that's not why I'm here. I just want to be strong. And like, no one understands me. And you kind of get that weird mindset going of like, I'm just going to be over here, not talking to anybody with my head down. West Side, as harsh as it was, it's a community, you know, it's a like weird family. And it's, even when you don't want to talk, and even when the other guy doesn't want to talk, you probably do that for about 20 minutes during the workout, and then you start chatting it up because your brain's going wild from the lifting that you're doing. But I just want everyone to understand how fucking exciting that was to have Louis Simmons and Dave Tate come along. And Dave Tate kind of was the one to... Louis Simmons is Stone Cold Steve Austin, okay? And Dave Tate is The Rock. So Stone Cold heightened wrestling. He made wrestling fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. The Rock came in and was able to not only carry it, but help take it to another level and get it seen by even more people. You know, because Stone Cold was like, I don't know, Stone Cold is like, he's easy to understand, right? Because he just kicks the shit out of the boss. So he doesn't have the same. Louis' stuff was a little harsher to understand, but I think The Rock, being like such a good looking guy and being so like, Stone Cold's crazy charismatic too, but there's no one quite like The Rock when it comes to charisma and just being funny. You know, he was freaking hilarious. And so that's the way I kind of view those two. Like Dave Tate, he really put West Side on the map. Even though Louis Simmons did all that hard groundwork beforehand, Dave Tate like simplified it and got it out to more people.
Yeah. What was your like conversations like with Louis Simmons? Like, because we heard that he would like kind of talk shit to everybody and stuff. Like, would you guys go back and forth, or was it like Louis has spoken and I'm just taking it? You know, like, I don't know. Do you guys joke around a lot, or?
Yeah. Oh God, he jokes around a lot. He makes fun of people a lot. He likes to laugh. He'll laugh at himself. You know, he's also mad. He's also kind of mad. He's like, not even kind of mad. He's mad. He's like grumpy. It really bothers him that he can't do a lot of the stuff that he used to be able to do. And I think it really, at this point, he should be over it, in some way, because it's probably been like this for over a decade or maybe even longer. When I first got there, he was still able to do some pretty good stuff. Like, he'd still get down on the bench and do some speed work, and you'd go, holy shit, all right. You're like, damn. He'd still be able to do some stuff here and there, but then he had a lot of atrophy in his arm and his shoulder, and so he's gotten kind of grumpy because he can't do what he loves. I mean, he loves to lift. He loves nothing more than he loves lifting. But he talked a lot of science. He talked about a lot of research. He talked a lot about, Russians and how they lift and everything. And we would be at breakfast. He'd buy me breakfast every morning. He'd buy me wherever I was with him. He would just buy me, whatever. He wouldn't let you ever pay for it. Anyway, at these breakfast sessions, I guess you'd call them, he would just talk about whatever he wanted to talk about, but it's always about lifting. It was really rare. It's not like he has dogs and stuff. He's got a wife. He's got a business. It would be really, really rare for him to talk about anything else other than lifting. He might say, I need to go pick up this equipment today or something. Might be something that's a little bit different than actually just the X's and O's of lifting, but it was almost always coaching or something. I don't know. I could order a fucking omelet, and then he'd be like, what the Russians said about eating eggs, and he would just go on, and you're like, what?
Pasta made my nose bleed.
Yeah. Yeah. He would just reference all kinds of crazy studies and crazy things. And his whole point was that the Russians already did kind of everything, because they invested a lot of money and a lot of time into it. And if you were an Olympic lifting coach for Russia and you didn't get your shit right, you were gone. And the people that were doing a good job, they got treated like royalty. They got paid really, really well. They had a really good life, but if you didn't, you were out, and you probably had a pretty shitty life. Getting food was probably not an easy thing. But he would tell me that the Russians would research if you had milk before training versus having it after training. If you warmed up like this versus warming up like that. He'd tell me all kinds of, just one thing that sticks in my head is it's a simple test, but if somebody knows that you're doing it to them, then it kind of fucks it up. But if you said, if you came to me and you're like, yeah, my left knee is killing me, right? And then I said, okay, well, we're going to work on some stuff, and we're going to see how your knee is, right? And then, over a couple of weeks, I'm starting to think that it's better. I'm asking you, where's your pain level? And because you're an Olympic lifter, and because you're, trying to win Olympic gold for the Russians, you're like, oh, I'm good. You want to get back into that rotation. You want to be treated really well. Those athletes were getting treated really well also. And so you would fucking lie. You'd be like, oh, my pain level's a 1, man. I'm good. And I'd be like, okay. So the Russian coaches would say, okay, we're going to start the workout on the ground. And they're not telling you kind of why. And you'd be like, okay, cause you just do what they say, and you get on the ground and say, actually, no, you know what? We're going to start somewhere else. And you're like, okay. So you go to get up. They watch you get up. Oh, you get up going the wrong way. You're staying with your rehab. Yeah. Shit like that. It's well, why did you get up? Or they watch you favor it, even if you did get up, using the left leg, and that's the one you hurt. Just little things like that. And it's I don't know. I would just absorb stuff like that and be like, whoa, that's fucking crazy. Yeah. You just learn all these weird, different things,
That's why it seems like there's so much. When we were talking about how, there's this new school idea of doing things that everything's been pretty, well, I don't want to say everything's been figured out, because there's so much more I think that can actually, we can figure out and learn, just
there's a lot to know. Yeah.
Got with JL. But, the big things that I think I got from Corey G, and he was talking about a lot of this, and Dave Tate, was that the whole thing shouldn't be a religion. You shouldn't be focused on this program or that program. You should look at all of this, because there's benefit to everything. Mm-hmm. Everyone's getting stronger, and try to pick and choose. I know right now, because I was talking to Corey, I'm going to be doing a lot of fucking lunges. Yep. All these individuals that we have on, they have these cool things that I don't do a lot of them. Just those lunges in my knees would probably work that'd be fucking awesome. There's so much to pick and choose from everything, that you shouldn't just think that there's one right way doing all of this.
And I think that's like what the West Side, like Louis will say there's only one way, right? And that's where he has probably messed up, because I think that you could combine, like, why can't you do, and this goes with diet too. Why can't you, count your calories, right? And then why can't you switch to being like, you know what? I don't really feel like counting calories at the moment, so I'm going to switch over and I'm going to do keto. It doesn't mean that the calories don't matter. It just means that you're tired of that discipline. You're going to move into a different discipline, right? And why not, just think of your training, be like, you know what? That was a long ass training cycle going into the last meet, and I'm kind of tired of like just regular bench, regular squat, regular deadlift. I'm going to try some West Side stuff. I'm going to read Jim Wendler's book, and I'm going to do 5-3-1 for like 2 months and just see what it's like.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to make you better.
Yeah. And Nsima, can you remember, or can you explain like the progression of your coaching, like from the beginning to where it is now? Like, did you start out with something thinking, dude, if I have a client, I'm going to teach them conjugate if they want strength, if they want bodybuilding, I'm going to, whatever it might be.
So I started personal training. It was right after I got injured in college and I ended up leaving. And I started doing that out of a private gym. So I worked at a gym in sales, right? And at that gym, there would be some people that would walk around and be like, oh, can you train me? Can you train me? And off hours, when I was working out, I would the gym didn't know I was working with people, but those people that were like, hey, can you work with me? I would work with them in the gym and just do stuff with them and act like I was just working out with them. And a lot of that stuff was like people trying to lose weight. It wasn't like strength athletes. And at that point, like my focus on training was like bodybuilding and a little bit of strength. And then when I moved into the private gym, it was called Forever Fitness in South Sacramento. It's not open anymore, but it was me and 2 other trainers, and we paid rent there.
Do you know where it was?
It was by SS Auto. You exit off of like you exit off of what's the fucking street? 21st or something like that. But it was a really small space. It was me and 2 other trainers, and we were paying rent on the space. But like that's when I started learning more about like bodybuilding programming. And then when I talk about bodybuilding program, I'm not talking like old school bodybuilding program. I'm talking about like stuff with a lot of frequency, the new school stuff with, focusing on volume and making sure that there's a lot of frequency involved in training. Not just like bro splits and stuff. Right. And then I had a few people that were kind of strong that wanted to work with me in person. So then I started learning about Wendler 5-3-1 was a program that I did before. But then I started learning about different periodization models like linear, which is just your typical progression, and then undulating, which is doing heavier days and lighter days and speed days throughout the week. But then after that, when I started watching more of that content, I was like, this is interesting. But all of these other coaches are telling me that this is kind of like, you don't need to do it. But anyway, I don't want to go to because I think this is just ending up being a long story. But anyway, I just ended up having a lot of different types of people that worked with me. And I started realizing that there was just a lot of different ways to get to the same destination. You know what I mean? There could be one way that works better than another most of the time, but it doesn't mean that there's like I had to get myself unstuck from thinking my way was the right way just because it was always working. Like there are certain things I could do that would work for almost everybody, but I had to get out of that and just figure like there could be things that could work even better than this.
Makes sense. So with Dave Tate, how did that relationship like come to be, or it just same thing, just working your ass off and he's like, damn, this guy can floor press?
Yeah. So with Dave Tate, I went to a seminar of his, a million years ago, and that kind of ended up sparking my interest. You guys kind of heard me mention that to him. It made me pretty much completely obsessed with powerlifting, even though I already liked it and was already into it. That got me more into it. I started learning more about it kind of through him. But when I moved to Columbus and I trained at Westside, like Dave he was kind of a dick, he would train hard and he would kind of be out. He's real quiet. And then he just seemed like he was kind of, I don't know. He seemed like he was either focused or angry, and, I think, if I never really have asked him about that, but I think he was in his career, it's in the middle of his career. And a lot of people we see a lot of people change, when their career's over, as we talked with like Eddie Hall and some other people about that in the past. I've heard people say that Ed Cohn's a dick. And I'm like, that's impossible. Are you kidding me? Like, Ed Cohn's amazing. Like, well, I knew him when he competed, and like, oh, okay, well, maybe that's fair. Look how nice Jay Cutler is, but maybe when he was competing, maybe he was a dick too, right? I don't know, but I think some people, JL talked about what a prick he was, right? And how he punched people in the face and everything. And now he seems like he's an amazing person. But Dave was kind of like that. He wasn't real talkative. I think he probably had the stress of his business too on him, because he was building Elite at the time, and it was like the kind of early stages of that. And so he wasn't really like a mentor to me in that way until I got to know him better. Once I started knowing him better, and when I started, writing on the site, and then we were, kind of like buds, kind of through that process. But that took a while. He's a little bit of a hard ass, as you were saying yesterday. But it's been amazing to have somebody like that in my corner, because Dave has. It's really weird, because like Louis Simmons is an inventor, and he's more of he's an inventor, period, right? Dave Tate is an entrepreneur, right? And then both these guys have these powerlifting backgrounds, and then like I just kind of, I guess that stuff leaked into my maybe subconscious mind, and then it was just always there. I wasn't ever like thinking of like, oh, what business am I going to start necessarily? But I think there was always something inside where I knew that I would like tinker with the right thing at some point and end up probably creating something that would be in the space, even though that wasn't like an intention or something I was consciously trying to do. It just ended up happening. But if you look at the patterns from both of those two and their behaviors from both of those two, then you can kind of see a lot of that. I think you guys were noticing a lot of that as we were talking to them. You're like, oh, Mark does that, the way Louis coaches and some of the things that were said yesterday. So it's been amazing to have people like that, because I could watch what they're doing, I could learn from it, and I could maybe say, hey, you know what, maybe that's not a good idea to act that way or do that way. Or I could say, hey, that actually would be great. Like, I can implement some of that. So Dave's kind of like, he's kind of gone through it all already,
I'm curious about this. I don't know if it's already been addressed, but who was before Louis? Like, because you guys are, you could see where Louis poured into, and like the vines that lead from the family tree. But then who was on top before that?
That's awesome, because so CT Fletcher, right? CT Fletcher. When we think about like YouTube and think about like popularity on YouTube and like who's the guy that kind of like got everyone like fired up, like who's kind of the first guy, I think that's kind of where a lot of people think, a lot of people start to think of like a CT Fletcher, right? Louis Simmons was that guy in the strength community, as CT Fletcher was to like YouTube and the fitness industry and bodybuilding, right? And I think that Louis, the cool thing is that Louis was just like CT Fletcher. Louis was an early adopter. He was in there early. So you could never flaw his validity. Like, he was legit, you know what I mean? And then he had this kind of army of lifters that backed up a lot of his practices. It backed up, our results justify our methods is like one of his sayings, and it's like, well, who can argue with a 1,200 pound squat? You can kind of say, hey, like, it's done under these conditions. And I don't really agree with that style of powerlifting, but it's 1,200 pounds. And previously, the guy, when he first showed up there, squatted 800 pounds. And you can't deny the fact that the guy gained 400 pounds on a squat, Again, you might disagree with them utilizing performance-enhancing drugs. You might disagree with how the squats are judged. You might disagree with the powerlifting gear and all those things. And that's fine, and that's fair. That's totally fair to not be a fan of any of those things. And I think it's totally fair to say, like, hey, if you think they cheat, then that's cheating to you, and that's fine. But you can't deny the fact that the methods are really justified in the fact that they're able to lift so much. But yeah, Louis was in there kind of early, and it was like undeniable. But that's when everyone else started to pop up though too. So a lot of hey now,
yo, stand up for dang.
Hey now. But a lot of other people started getting really popular at the time. That's when like a Charles Poliquin started to come into play. There was like Charles Staley. There was just, the list of people goes on and on. You can find a lot of those people on, a website like tnation.com has a lot of those kind of older articles from some of those people. But again, Louis was the guy. He wasn't talking about it. He wasn't just talking about it. He was actually producing really, really strong lifters. And he was a top 10 power lifter for like 20 years, 30 years or something like that. He was, I think it might have been 30 years. And he was like, find someone else in their sport that's been in the top 10 for 30 years, and it's not an easy thing to find. He's one of the few. So he was actually doing it himself too.
I'm excited. Like, I want to look back at Jackass's old his program or whatever, your workout log, because I think that would be hilarious. Because I should be like, oh, this is just markbell.com 1.0.
Yeah, it really kind of was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got Stan the Rhino Efforting. He came through here, and so we're gonna chop this thing down in a minute here, but let's kind of just run through like who. It's kind of hard to pick a favorite of the guests that we had. We had Dave Tate, we had Corey Gregory, we had JL Holdsworth, we had Eddie Hall, we had Derek Carver, and we can't leave out Stan because he might end up being our favorite. But we kind of know that he's probably going to lay an egg. Like it's rare for him to ever come prepared to anything or show up on time and stuff like that. So it's probably going to be a mess of a podcast. But having said all that, who do you guys think is your favorite?
I'll start out with JL, dude. I loved hearing the stories of Westside when he's just like, I didn't like my training partner, so I'm like, hey, we have to fight or else I'll move into the AM crew. I was like, what the like?
Oh yeah, that was a crazy story. He said he went out in the parking lot and the guy wouldn't come out there and fight him, and he didn't care if he won or lost. He's like, if I win, we're going to go back inside and train. If I lose, we're going to go back inside and train.
Yeah.
But I'm fucking leaving this PM crew if you're too much of a pussy to fight me.
And I'm just
that doesn't make any sense, but that's funny.
Yeah. And then, like it just was when you said it that way, reminded me of talking to your cousin Stephen Bell about like New Yorkers, how they pull over on the side of the road because somebody cut them off and they're going to fight. And I'm just like, so somebody cut you off and they're going to make you late. So that justifies being extra late and pulling over and getting into a fight. So it's like the outcome makes no sense whatsoever. But that was amazing. But also, like, when we had Cal Dietz on, I was really confused about the RPR system. Or I think that's he broke it down a lot simpler, and he really has like motivated me to look more into it and actually take the first course that they offered. And so I'm like, dude, that was really cool. Eddie Hall, I think we can all say that we loved that episode. Street Bike Tommy, I'm like, he seemed like he was
hilarious.
He's such a homie. Like, we've seen him a bunch of times throughout the expo, and he's just like, we're just hanging out. Corey Gregory, awesome. I think we're all going to start doing lunges. But for me, I think JL takes the cake because I'm like, I already started doing more RPR stuff since then, and I'm like already feeling better. Like, I did the RPR stuff before I took a dump this morning, and that thing just shot out of me.
Whoa.
It was great. That was the first time all weekend.
That's scary.
Yeah. For me, it's a tie between JL and Dave Tate. Now, Eddie Hall, that was an amazing podcast. Like, it's weird saying JL and Dave because Eddie Hall's a fucking legend, but the reason I choose those two is because of the change that I saw in JL, Like, I didn't know JL, but from what you talked about JL, from what Dave mentioned about JL, and what JL said about JL, right?
Yeah.
It's wild. But the thing is like the way he looks at training now is kind of the way that I've been trying to approach training for years, in a very relaxed fashion, trying to continue to move forward and having that type of control over it. Like, I relate a lot to that. I relate a lot to getting better within that context. So that's why all that RPR stuff, really, I vibe with that hardcore, because I don't tend to want to, like, I don't use hard, like, angry emotions for my lifting or my jujitsu. Like, I feel like I can't, that's not a long-term thing. So when JL told his story about how, like, he came to powerlifting and left like a flash because of that, I was like, I like this longer idea, right? And then the reason Dave Tate was so awesome to me is just because, like, again, that whole, his ability to move from thing to thing to thing. Like, I don't know how old Dave Tate is. How old is he, Mark? Like, around what age?
Probably 53 or something like that, or something. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Doesn't look a day over 70.
But the big thing with Dave Tate is that, number one, he's never stopping in terms of like the pivoting that we were talking about, the getting better on all these new media platforms.
Yeah, each person we talked to kind of had these different pivot points.
Exactly. Yeah. And they never stopped doing that, but they also like were always like, Dave, even though Dave knows so fucking much, is still so open to new ideas in terms of strength. Mm-hmm. I know people that are my age, that are a little bit younger, that are in their 30s or whatever, and they're like, they have the answer. Like, this is what you got to do. This is the thing. But I didn't get that vibe from Dave. Like, he knows a lot. And it's the same thing with you. You know a fucking lot, but you're never, you guys are never just like, I got all the answers. You know, you ask me questions, and like, it still shocks me when you ask me questions, because I'm like, why the fuck you ask me questions? Right? Like, but that's like Dave and JL, like, those were some very impactful podcasts for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dave Tate was a lot of fun, you know, for me, you know, being a friend of his for so long, and him being a mentor to me. I would say, like, you know, I got like my, you know, male figures, you know, in my life that have been, you know, extremely impactful. You know, my dad is at the top of the list, and I might forget a couple of people in here, so I apologize. But like, my dad would be at the top of the list. My brother would be in there for sure. And then that's when you start having like some of the people in our community and in the fitness industry and stuff like that. And that would definitely be, you know, Dave Tate would be in there. Our boy Stan Efferding would definitely be in there. I mean, you know, you have these. You have it. I just think we all have, everyone, we all have great opportunities to allow the people that we know and the people that we communicate with to rub off on us in like a positive way. And you think back to when Stan, you know, entered the gym, you know, go back and YouTube the video where Stan's doing 220-pound dumbbells, you know, and look who's spotting him, you know, it's me, and I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Mm-hmm. It's of no coincidence that Stan Efferding, someone who is successful in bodybuilding, got his pro card in bodybuilding, becomes an all-time world record holder in powerlifting. He comes through the doors. He's lean, you know, not as lean as he was for his bodybuilding stuff, because when he powerlifted, he would just get massive, but he was still fucking lean. He didn't have any body fat on him. He comes through the doors. He shows people a different way of lifting. Hey, you know, Mark, he didn't say anything to me, but it's like, hey, you know, you could lift, and you can lift heavy, and I lift heavier than you, and I'm not nearly as disgusting as you are. You could probably figure out a way to make some changes and kind of head more in this direction. Yeah. And then also, Stan was already doing well as an entrepreneur, and I was like, this guy's bodybuilding, this guy's powerlifting, this guy's killing it in business. Like, I have to stop being an idiot. Like, you know, and you can allow that to motivate you, or you can be like, oh man, he's got that because he's got a business partner, or somebody gave him money, or like his parents, you know, set it up, or like, I mean, you can be as grumpy about it as you want, or you could start asking questions. You can say, oh shit, like, hey, that's awesome. How did you get that huge house in Washington? How do you have all these toys? How do you have a Rolls Royce in the garage, and jet skis and all these fancy watches? I tried on all his watches. I tried on all his clothes. When I stayed at his house in Washington one time, he was out of town. So I sent him a bunch of pictures. I was like he's got like fancy sunglasses. He had all this fancy stuff. I don't think he's that fancy anymore. He's got kids now. He can't really do that as a dad, but anyway, you can have these people have a big, strong, powerful impact on you. You can allow it to empower you. And sometimes it might be something that lasts for just a few weeks or a few months, but it could, in my case, you know, it's something that's lasted me a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And it's helped a lot. It's helped in a lot of situations. And you can kind of think of, yeah, I wonder what my friends would do. You know, some of the people I look up to, what would they do in this situation? Mm-hmm. You know, can you guys picture a scenario where Stan would get like really mad? Could you picture Stan punching a hole in a wall?
I could imagine it, but
I could picture like a cartoon version of it. Yeah, that'd be fun.
But like, he doesn't react that way.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
You know, he does, and a lot of my friends are like that. A lot of my friends that have kind of come to the other side too, of like, you know, maybe not competing anymore. You know, JL's that way now, right?
Dude, like, Jesus Christ, I can't see JL being aggressive from the way he was presenting himself and all that. I can't see it, but it's so crazy.
Yeah. And then one more guess that just hit me right now, and I think it'll actually have it has potential to have the biggest impact out of all of the guests. And it was when you asked Derek Carver, like, how can we all show appreciation for our men and women in the military? And he plain and simply said, live a life worth living.
Live a life worth dying for.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, it was worth living. It wasn't. I wrote it down.
Live a life worth dying for.
Is that what it was?
Because,
yeah.
Oh, I wrote down the wrong thing, but it means the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel really dumb. I thought I wrote it down wrong.
He's going to listen to it again. He doesn't believe us. I don't remember what he said, but I
am going to listen to it, and then if I'm right, I'm
going to brag.
I'll make a whole podcast about it.
And just loop me saying the wrong thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that hit me too. That was like, it was like literally that mic drop, but it makes a lot of sense. He was someone who served, right? These guys are going overseas.
Look this shit
They're dying for us to have our freedom.
You still wrote it down wrong. Even if you look at it again, it's still going to be incorrect.
Where is it?
But yeah, it was live a life worth dying for, and that
can't change the ending of the Titanic.
Damn, you guys are right.
I've never heard somebody say that before, and it's extremely powerful. Like, it's just like, don't sit here and do nothing with your fucking life that guys are getting killed for.
I've heard Jocko Willink talk about that as well.
Yeah.
He said, like, he said that he used to be kind of grumpy, and he used to be, thinking like, man, these civilians, they don't understand, us military people. And then he realized, look, everyone can serve the country. And he's kind of said the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be a piece of shit. Like, go out there, do stuff, be active, don't cause a lot of problems with our health care and insurance and all these things. Like, be healthy, be strong, be able to take care of yourself. You don't need a lot of help from the government. You don't need a lot of help from other people. You're not negatively impacting anybody. Just, it's pretty simple. Be a good person, be nice. Yeah. Shit like that.
When Derek was talking about, like, sometimes I think I mentioned this on the podcast in the past, but it's in like, oh, there are other people that have it worse than you. When I was looking at Derek, it's not like I was thinking, oh, he has it worse than me because he doesn't have a leg, but it was more so like, in America, all of us, and Derek was even mentioning it, some of the poorest people here have it better than so many people, like, worldwide in general. Yeah. Like, we are so lucky in whatever situation we have here to be doing whatever the hell that we're doing. And I mean, everybody has some sort of privilege, no matter what it is. I'm very privileged as a black guy here in the U.S. There might be a lot of things that people may talk about, but I am very, very, very privileged, right? I have so much that I could do. So, like, it's just understand that no matter what situation you're in, you have some sort of privilege that you can be utilizing and you could be moving forward with here, because we literally are here. I got relatives in Africa that are trying to get over here and they can't, and I think about that all the time. And there's just like, there's no reason anything should be stopping us here.
Yeah, I think, out of all the people that we had, I think Derek Carver, I think his podcast was great. Like, I loved the dynamics of it too, how he, is real sarcastic. He's really fun. He's really funny, and he's really serious at the same time. He's got a lot of kind of different messages going on at one time. But I thought probably the craziest and coolest thing that we heard is that he said he wants to be the president. I think he's maybe said he's gonna be the president. Like, that's just cool to me. Like, who knows how it will work out? I don't know, what he'll be able to do or not do, but I'm not going to doubt the guy. Looks like he's, figured out a way of being pretty damn capable of anything that he sets his mind or body to. So I'm not going to be the guy that's going to say, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then JP, that, like, getting under the knife, I just hope people really, really take that to heart. It's a hard thing to navigate and give people advice for, because I've gone to a lot of doctors who have wanted to just cut me open on certain things, and I'm just so happy I didn't. But athletes, be careful.
He's another guy that made a strong pivot. You know, he made a pivot from, you know, being one of the strongest powerlifters. I mean, he's one of the first guys to walk out 1,000 pounds and squat it, you know, with raw, you know, and just an unbelievable lifter and a great guy, and someone that he's, again, we talk about this a lot, you know, he's one of those people that just kind of like lights up when you see him, you can't help but smile type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think he's the one that said this, but maybe on a previous podcast or something, he told me in passing, he said, you should think of yourself like a thermometer, you know, in a room, or not a thermometer, a thermostat. You should think of yourself as like a thermostat. And so if a room is like too hot, there's too much negative energy, you can cool it down. If the room needs to be like heated up and could use a little bit more spice, you know, you can kind of heat it up as well. And I think that's a great reference, and what a cool way to live, and kind of thinking about a life worth dying for. You know, it's a life worth dying for when the second that someone sees you before you even say anything, that other people start smiling.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's pretty cold in here, so can we turn that thermostat up a little bit?
Turn down for what?
Exactly, it's fucking cold.
All right, let's bring this one home. So, Andrew, if you can sign us on out.
Real quick, wanted to thank Icon Meals for feeding us this weekend. Feeding Nsima and myself and the rest of the team. Mark's doing all carnivore, so I don't think you touched that. But thank you, Todd Abrams, for hooking us up with that. Again, Piedmontese, you guys know we love it, but all links, everything down in the description, show notes everywhere. Please make sure you're following the podcast at Mark Bell's Power Project. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z, at MB Power Project on TikTok and Twitter. I don't remember the exact address of the Facebook and the YouTube pages right now, but we're all over the damn place. Thank you to everybody that's been rating and reviewing the podcast. We sincerely appreciate that. We love doing this, and it is a lot of work, but that is a huge thank you. So thank you to everybody that's been doing that. Nsima, where you be?
At Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, at Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Mark?
At Mark's Millie Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch y'all later.